Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Tat Sat. I'll share the page. There was a bit of cold and cough, so we kind of missed out on the commentary on it. So let me first say this so that you can have a look at the electronic page. Okay, here is it. The 52nd verse we were doing. Now the discussion is that we are trying to do Maya Swarupa Nirupana. What is this Maya like? Is it same as Brahman? Is it different from Brahman? Now, if it is different from Brahman, then Brahman, we will say Brahman and something other than Brahman. Brahman plus delta or something like that. So there will be Ditiyatvam. There would be another one. That is refuted in the verse number 51. Ataiva Dvitiyatvam Sunyavanna Higanyate Naloke Chaitrata Saktyor Jivitam Likhyate Pruthaka. This we have discussed, that we do not distinguish between Chaitra and his power, or electric circuit and the power in it. There can be an analytical distinction, but we do not make a real difference that they can be separate. They can stay away from each other. And we can, like, for example, in Vedanta, all the time they give an example. In case of a golden necklace, you cannot separate the necklace from the gold. You cannot go and buy a necklace without buying gold. They can never be separate because these nama rupas are mostly adhyasas. They are superimpositions. They are not real. So vacharamana vikara namadheyam mritika ityevam satyam. It's only earth. You give different kinds of names to different shapes and sizes, and we attribute this as if these are new objects, but they are essentially superimpositions of names and forms on earth, clay, on which, out of which they are made. Similarly, this Maya is slightly different. This Maya is not a product of Brahman. Now, out of clay, we have a pot. This Jagat is out of Brahman. So, we bring in the comparison of clay and a clay pot. But when you talk about Maya, Maya is not a product of Brahman. You know why? The moment you say it's a product of Brahman, so you will have first Suddha Brahma, then Maya. There'll be Karya Karana Bhava. And then that's why we don't accept it. Now, do you see the rope first and then you see the snake? If you look at a snake, when was the snake born? The moment there was a rope, there was a snake. We cannot say the date of birth of the snake is couple of seconds after the rope was there. Nothing like that. Because fundamentally, it isn't real. We do not accept the nominal reality of Maya. Phenomenal reality, yes. This is a conceptual tool to explain creation, how to understand creation. This is a big challenge for all of us. So, philosophically, they're using the word Maya to explain away that this reality with which we are dealing from morning to evening, and so many emotions and so many responses we receive in life, so many ways in which we try to adjust to them, understand them. There's a complex process going on. And yet, Vedanta says that only one is true, and that is the substratum, the foundation of all of it. Depends on the lens with which we are trying to see reality. It's like if you have a microscope, what you see with your naked eyes, you don't see with the microscope. So there's a small lump of blood, and that's what you see with your naked eyes. And then you put it in a microscope and you see different other things. You cannot even see the whole lump of blood, a drop of blood that you are there. No, you don't. So it depends on how you look at it. And the jnana drishti that the Vedanta is trying to empower us with is to see that paramarthika vastu and not as a vishaya of your jnana, but as jnana swarupa. So we will ascend from a plane where we are looking at the object of our knowledge, and there is a process of knowing, and then we are the knowers. These dualities will all vanish. In the sense, they will all get dissolved in a state of pure consciousness where there is no duality. That is how we are referring to Brahman. But whenever we are talking about Brahman, we make the mistake of referring to Brahman as if Brahman is around us, is different from us, in front of us, behind us. God is different from us. We are different from God. This duality, in a way, obstructs our ability to meditate on God as one all encompassing conscious reality, where we do not exist independently, autonomously, as different from Brahman, from God. So Vedanta is trying to help us. So Vedanta is essentially trying to take us to that level where we can actually go to that level where we can conceptualize what is God and who we are. Both the things we will be able to deal with. That is how Vedanta is helping. And this shloka is pushing us towards that. What is it saying? You look at the sloka again. Ata eva dvitiyatvam. The question, the critical question, whether Brahman and Sakti, Maya Sakti, are two different things. That is being refuted. Na loke chaitra tas saktiyor jivitam likhyate prathak. No, it's never done. We have already discussed it at length. Now the 52nd verse, where I sort of started sneezing in the middle while doing the commentary. Let me quickly do it. Dithiyam vikalpam saktehe parthakya rupam varayati sakteriti. Somebody might think that what about Sakti and its product? That's been refuted here. There is no Dithiyatvam. Okay. Now, the challenge is, if you sort of look at this particular verse, the challenge is that we have different temptations to, in fact, accept that Sakti or Maya could be different. Why? Because if you look at the work of Maya, then you accept there is a lot of transformations and changes undergoing at the level of the phenomenal reality in samsara. And it's Maya Karya, that's what Shastra also says. So let's accept that Maya is different and independent. Therefore, in the Kalyana Piyusha, he says, Satya Dikhye Sati Jivitam Jivana Vardhet. You see, so somebody's energy or power or potentiality expands, and then we refer to him that his life has become longer, he is bigger, and he is more established. अतः चैत्र तत्शक्ति chaitra tasakti iti atirikta vadasi chetna. If you are saying the energy or the power or the potentiality of Chaitra, a certain individual, his energy is different from Chaitra. Even if you are trying to say this, iti chet, no, that's not true. What is it? Tatra vriddhikrit sakti no. This particular Sakti doesn't have any transformative power on its own. That's not what is expanding. What you look at, that person is expanding. Na sakti karyam vriddhi tyarthaha. The vriddhi that you see in that person, his manifestation, his expansion, his establishment, or his influence in society, or anything you are looking at, is because of his power. That's a simple way of saying it. But it's because how he's applying his power, his ability, his potentiality. That is what is bringing in some transformation in the way he's being evaluated or perceived by others. The point here is, in fact, to again and again convince us to understand the simple fact that the Sakti doesn't have an independent existence. It cannot have an outcome of his own. The person in which this energy is established or is attributed to, that fellow is applying his energy, and there are some changes in who he is in the eyes of others, or maybe in his own eyes. But Sakti is not producing it on his own. Just look at it. That's what they're trying to say. So you have electricity. But then you have an electric circuit through which the electricity comes and lights up your lights or fan or refrigerator. Is the electricity firing it? Yeah, we talk like that. But if you look at it, it's one integrated system where the circuit, the whole electrical system as such, it cannot be said that the electrical power which comes here, analytically distinct, yes, but it cannot exist on its own except through the medium or the substratum or the platform through which it operates. But if you're a student of physics, you will immediately come back to me and ask, of course, what about lightning? When lightning happens, or there is a word in electricity we have all studied in school, there's something called corona discharge, right? When you have a huge potential difference, and there are these two entities who come very close to each other, the charge without having a medium jump without a conductor can travel. But even then, if you look at it, there is air. Even if you look at how lightning happens, this whole ionization process takes the help of the rain droplets, isn't it? That's how the electricity travels from hundreds of kilometers above, or maybe 4, 5, 10 kilometers, hundreds of meters above at least. Yeah, obviously, hundreds of meters, not kilometers. Hundreds of meters above, and it travels down to the ground level. Then you have lightning or thunderbolt or whatever. But how does that travel? That huge amount of electricity. It takes the it takes certain medium. So it cannot fully independently exist. That is what they are trying to hammer through our mind so that we understand it, that Maya cannot be Swatantra Sakti. That is what is they are trying to say. Sakta diki jivitam ched vardate tatra vridikrit na sakti kintu tat karyam yuddha krishyadikam yatha. So that is the example part, tatha. What is it? Kingtari tat karyam ityataha kintu tat karyam yuddha krishyadikam. Somebody is a great fighter, somebody is a great player. Yeah. So those of you who watched the cricket match today, the so-called great Indian team, which fought very brilliantly against the English team on their soil, crumbled in Calcutta today, isn't it? They folded up, couldn't even achieve 125 runs or something. Now you say it's a weak team, they don't know how to play. You want to say that there is suddenly a diminishing of their potentiality or anything? No, it's exactly the transformation. The transformation happens on ground through the application of whatever energy they have. And accordingly, they are being visualized as strong or weak. It's nothing to do with the energy per se. Analytically, yes. In real terms, cannot be isolated from the platform through which on which this manifests, this energy flourishes, manifests, or diminishes. So it doesn't achieve any outcome on its own. That is the small point. That is what has been sort of conveyed to us. Okay, so here this jivitam word can sort of refer to as the karya, or to the person, his life or his strength and the way he manifests himself. So it's through his work, like yuddha, war, warfare, or commerce, krishi, agriculture, or vyapara, commerce, or trade, or he does karma yoga. Okay, so all these are purusha vyapara vishesha eva santi na to sakte he samagriatmakaha parivartanaha. So there is no such transformation which is happening as a result of some changes and modifications, and on its own it's producing any results, but it's through a certain platform. Okay, so the final conclusion here, and there will be the last final conclusion in the next sloka, it's trying to say Sakti is not a Swatantra Vastu. It exists in the Ashraya Vastu. What is the Ashraya Vastu? Ashraya Vastu is Brahman. Where is electricity? In the electric circuit, in the electric particular machinery, or wherever you are applying it. And once it's there, it's a dharma vishesha. We don't accept guna or qualities which cannot be attributed to Brahman, but for the sake of explaining, it's considered to be a certain dharma vishesha. And how do you know it? Karyagata, vyapara, anugata. You look at how that person, whatever is doing, and what is finalizing through him, what is manifesting through him, through which you do anumana that this energy exists, how else would he work? So, karya gata vyapar anugata sakti rupa. That is how they are explaining. And then what? If this sakti chaitrat prithaksha, if it is different from chaitra, whosoever is the person whose power we are talking about, then jivita Bruddho tasyaha swarupam eva parivartana syat tad na upapadyate. So if there is something, the energy will transform on its own, something like that, he's saying that's not accepted. Vriddhehe saktau na kaschid vyaparavarti drishyate. Okay, that is what is the commentators, different kind of people. He's saying you look at their activities through which they are described as powerful or less powerful or whatever. Now let's go to the final verse here in the Brahma, that Maya Rupa, Saktehe Maya Rupatvasya Nirupanam. So, Evam Satah Saktya Sadititvam Nirakritya Tat Karya Bhavena Tenapi Sadvitiyatvam Kaimutaka Nyayana Nirakaroti Sarvatha Iti. Evam Satah Saktya. Now, because of Sakti or Maya Sakti is there, using the presence or attribution to the Brahman of the presence of Maya Sakti, some people would like to attribute there is a second other than the Brahman, Saditiyatvam. It has a friend, it's not alone. Maya Sakti is its friend. So there are two people, they're a couple. Sankhya people believe like that. So he's saying, no, no, it's not true because it's not different and it is not the same also. It's Anirvachaniya Sakti. Having said that, he's saying Tat Karya Bhavena. Brahman is nirvikara, nishkala, doesn't have any outcome, or and then Maya Sakti independently also doesn't produce any work. It was explained in the above sloka. Therefore, Tat Karya Bhavena Tenapi Sadvitiyatvam Kaimutaka Nyayana. What is Kaimutaka Nyaya? So he's saying that there are if there was a very difficult pitch and you have a great batsman. Let's imagine somebody technically very fit, like say Jeff Boycott or Tendulkar, were extremely good on any track when it comes to defending the wicket. A very powerful batsman, like say Rahul Dravid of India, or maybe Ricky Ponting of Australia, or you know Lloyd of West Indies. These guys could stop a particular match from progressing, isn't it? Boycott. I mean, lots of such great batsmen. They can stop the flow of defeat or win by just standing there. You cannot do anything. And at the same time, he's saying you have a situation, the third, a person who is a night watchman. What he'll do in that kind of a turning pitch, you send him. When these greats cannot survive 5 overs, 10 overs, then you're talking about number 8 or number 9 batsman to go and save your country, save your team. That's not possible. Similarly, if Brahman itself, we have already explained that is not different from Maya. And Maya doesn't have any independent existence. And then Maya and Brahman, Maya is Brahmashrita. We have already explained all this. Now, Maya doesn't have any independent work, which it can show. Independent work is what? Is Brahmashrita, she can have some work to show. Is independent? No. The snake, the Maya Sakti, as a result of which we see the snake, cannot produce a snake out of nothing. It requires a rope. Once there is a rope, Maya can work. That means faulty cognition can happen. So the rope may be visible as a snake. Similarly, he's saying, Tat karya bhavena tenapi sadvitiyatvam kaimutaka nyayana nirakaroti. If I have already disproved to you that Brahman and Maya are two different things, what to say that Maya doesn't have any work of his own, and therefore there is nothing called Brahman and Maya. Sarvata Sakti Matrasya Na Prithak Ganana Kvachit Sakti Karyam Tu Naivasti Dvitiyam Sakyate Katham. Sarvata Sakti Matrasya Na Prithak Ganana Kvachit Asti. Sakti Matra, that means without Saktiman. You're talking about electricity without an electric circuit. And that's not possible. Sarvata, any other time. That means always, any time. Sakti Matrasya, only energy, or that Maya Shakti. Na prithak gunana kvachiti. You cannot talk about brilliance without thinking about a brilliant student. You say that is very sharp. Sharpness in mathematics cannot be talked about without citing the name of a great mathematician. You bring in, yeah, so you bring in the name of Alan Turing and you say that, you see, he was one of the most brilliant mathematicians. That's why we have computers today, isn't it? You bring in some name, then it makes, we have so many great names. You bring in Newton or Leibniz, and then you talk about mathematical skills. You're going to talk about mathematical skills just like that, without having in mind a mathematician. Prithak ganana kvachit. Sakti karyam tuna eva asti. And then that brilliance, mathematical brilliance, it doesn't produce anything if we don't presume the existence of a mathematician there. Karyam na evasti dvitiyam sakyate katam. How do you ever think about that Sakti is different from Brahman and it exists independently, it can produce anything? You're going to talk like that. So, now, Sarvatha Sakti Matrasya Kvachidavi Prathak Ganana Pratyak Vyavaharo na Vidyate. You go anywhere, he's saying, in samsara, you cannot only talk about energy or anything on its own as independently existing. And you cannot count it as one. You can count there are 5 brilliant mathematics students. You say that there are 5 brilliant ones. But you cannot say there are 5 brilliances. It's difficult. I mean, anyway, abstract noun refers to uncountable qualities, isn't it? They're not, you can measure their performance when the person comes in. Otherwise, there's no way to say there are 5 or 6 mathematical brilliances as such. You can say there are 5, 6 mathematical geniuses or great mathematicians. क्वचिदपि पृथक गणना प्रत्येक व्यवहारो न विद्यते शक्ति सद्वितीयत्वाभावेपि शक्ति कार्य सदित्यत्वम स्याद् इत्यतः. Somebody might come around and have a hypothetical question before us. What is that hypothetical question? He might ask, okay, fine. Sakti is not a second entity which is independent or different from Brahman. Okay, I agree. It is not independent. Fine. But what about Sakti Karya Sadvitiyatvam? Can you say that there is Brahman and this Sakti, which is Brahma Kshetra, and then it is having Karya, the Jagat, this whole manifest reality? So Brahman and the manifest reality, they are two or not? Sadvitiyatam Syat Ityataha. That has to be refuted. Because that is the whole story. The Brahma Parinamavadis, like say Ramanuja followers, they consider Brahman no vikara, no vikara. They are same as the, they say Saguna Saka, Saguna, but still any kind of vikara, no. Is there any decline in the fullness of Sachidananda Brahma, Narayana, when he creates samsara? No, he doesn't lose anything. Because all Upanishadic insights, they also explain within their own analytical framework. Assuming that Narayana is Param Brahman, they are able to do it. And they have their own philosophical explanations. But he's saying, Sakti Karya Sadvityam Syad Ityataha Sakti Iti. Satya Karyam tu Maya Yaha Karya Bhutam Nama Rupadikam Aindrajalika Karyavan Naiva Asti. And that's what we were referred to yesterday. You see, Thakur used to always say, the magician alone is real, but the magician was displaying some magical tricks, and you saw those tricks. So isn't it true that the magician is not his magic, and his magic is different from the magician? The moment you say yes, they are very happy. Why? Because you have admitted duality. So you have admitted there are two things. You are Brahman, and then this Maya Bhuta Jagat, born out of this Maya. Maya Jata Jagat, whatever way you try to describe it. But that is what Vedanta would not accept. You cannot say there is a rope and there is a snake. The snake is superimposed on the rope. So there are two things, there is a rope and there is a snake, because there is somebody who is able to see the rope and others are seeing the snake. So there are two objects. No. The Maya Karya doesn't have any Swarupa Satyata. It doesn't have. It's a superimposition. Snake doesn't exist as such. Sakti Karyam tu Maya Karya Bhutam, because it's that magical thing. Nama Rupadikam. It's basically names and forms. No real transformation of the Brahman or of the Maya Sakti. Aindrajalika Karyavan na eva asti. The magician shows you several things. They have no real existence. What do they do? They materialize a rabbit out of a small bag in which they had put a fountain pen. He puts a fountain pen into a bag and pulls out a rabbit, or pulls out a parrot or something. People are super excited. They clap. This beautiful music to cheer everybody up. Everybody is spellbound. Now, you know what is magic here? The fact that a bird was pulled out of an empty bag. That is a lie. No such creation happened. It's Hath Ki Safai. He had hidden that bird somewhere and he was able to create that delusion or create that illusion that he materialized a rabbit or a bird out of an empty bag. But that is not real. So, any magic tricks, anybody who have taken any interest in magic trick, you would learn very soon that these are things they do. But that appears real. But that's not different from magician. He's saying this ability to display some magic is the magician himself, and this thing doesn't have any real existence. Eva iti nishayarthe, in order to ascertain that it's certain, it's obvious, he's saying eva. Evam sati ditiyam vastu katham sakyate anumiyate. So, how do you ever imagine that there is a second other than Brahman? There is something else other than the rope. You are seeing the snake. It's a false thing. And therefore, it's futile to ever assume that there are two things. It's only Brahman. There is Maya Shakti. The Maya Shakti is a theoretical tool in our hands. We are using it in order to make sense of names and forms and the diversity and samsara in which we think we have an independent role and everything is happening at a very micro mini level in a real manner. But that is only a presumption. That's not very real. Therefore, he's saying, how is it you know? The snake actually never existed. What do you mean by a snake is the product of rope or the false cognition or whatever? He's saying something which is a asambhava vastu. It's not a reality. So how can it have a cause? If something is real thing, it can have a cause. If something is unreal, it can have a trigger, and that's not a cause. You can explain it as to what triggered that perception. You are very hungry, extremely hungry, and you woke up from sleep, and you have a bed lamp and it's red color, it's right there on the table. You looked at that red bulb and suddenly you think it's a beautiful apple. You can say because of the hunger, I saw it like that. But can you say cause of that particular apple is hunger in you as a result of which you saw it? That is not a right way to make an understanding of it. Similarly, he's saying, Bandha putra ayamanina. So, for example, you'll say, bring me, why didn't you call the handsome son of that barren woman? What do you mean by that? Juha me nasti, I don't have a tongue. How do you speak? Bandhya putra. Bandhya lady will be barren if she doesn't have any children. The moment she has a son, she is no more barren. Barren woman's barren lady's son is a contradiction in terms. It's paradoxical. It cannot exist. He's saying Sakti karyo karyena api sataha sadvitiyatam anumadam na sakyate iti bhavaha. So similarly, because this Bandhya Putra is not real, there is no way of discussing this and there is no way to assume that you can accept it, you can make sense of it. Okay? So to conclude, Sakti Karyam tu Mayayaha Nama Rupatmaka Prapancha Rupam Vastutaha Na eva Asti. The Sansara Vastutaha. In a metaphorical sense, in a phenomenal sense, Sansara exists. Fine. Vastutaha Na eva Asti. In reality, it doesn't exist. Indrajalakrita Sarapadi Brahmavat. Because somebody is doing some magic and is able to show you a rope as a snake. Mithyatvena upapannatvat. Mithya means what? Mithya is not false. In Vedanta, Mithya is na sat, na asat, na sad asad. So neither true nor false, nor a mixture of false and true. What is it? It's anirvachaniya. It's difficult to describe. Evam sati tadrishasya sakti kartikasya mithya karya karyasya ashrayena brahma dvitiyatvam katham sakyate katham anumanam pravartate. That is how this commentator is trying to say. When you know that it is basically delusional, it's just a projection, it's not real. So the particular guy, Sakti Karta, who is Sakti Karta here? Brahman. And then he's creating, and therefore his work is different from him. The work is not even real. Snake is not even real. So you cannot say snake and the rope are two different things. Brahman and Sansara are two different things. No. Because that is only impossible. Okay? And so the final conclusion is that the Maya Prapancha, which is basically a set of names and forms, number one, it doesn't have Swatantriya. That's why he says Sakti Karyam tu Naiva Asti. And then he's comparing this with magical work. Okay? And then when you are saying, when we are, so it has Swatantra Sattva Bhavaha Paramarthataha. It doesn't have any essential existence of its own. And then avidya vishaya tasya vyavahara. In this whole, in a shady location, there are 4 children standing. They are talking about a rope. Actually, there is a talking about a rope, but they are referring to just snake. 4 children enter a room. There is a rope lying in the corner. They are saying, "What do you think?" Somebody says, "It's a rattlesnake," and the other boy says, "No, I have seen it. It's a king cobra." Somebody says it's a viper. Somebody says it's a desert snake. These are all different names. They are referring to what? They are referring to a rope. However, they are discussing its possibility of being different snakes and how dangerous. They are discussing all that. In that context of a shady room or a half-lit room, which creates the condition in which a rope can appear as a snake to a human mind through the eyes through which you see. Let's imagine all 5 people see a snake there. And therefore, they consider it real. Actually, it's not real because there is a rope. If you switch on the lamp, you will know there is a rope. Until the lamp is switched on, all these 5 little boys or girls together, they're discussing a snake. Similarly, avidya vishetasya vyavaharaha. We're talking about Maya Karya. During our level, at our level of consciousness, our level of understanding in Prapancha, okay, we can say that this is Jagat and this is different from Brahman. Even evam sthite sakti karyepi vastutaha bhave. But really there is a rope, no snake. Really samsara doesn't exist. Bandhya putravat, like a barren lady cannot have a son. Therefore, tasma satah dvitiyam kinchid vastu anumayitum na sakyate. Therefore, we cannot presume that it's possible to argue, use logic to establish that Jagat is different and independent and separate from the Brahman. Nahi asambhava vastunah karanatvam sambhavati. The snake is an impossible existence, impossible entity, because there is no such thing as a snake. Therefore, how can you talk about the cause of the snake? There is no real causal factor. Had it been real, we would have talked about what A causes B. B has to be real for A to be discussed. If B is just an imagination, why at all find and look for the A? अतः शक्ति कार्य भावेन ब्रह्म द्वितीयत्वस्य अनवकाशः. So first thing, this Maya Karya Jagat, it doesn't have any essential existence of its own. However, in the avidya vishaya, at our level of understanding, at our level of vyavahara, laukika vyavahara, we do refer to different kinds of things. Everything is Brahman. But still we differentiate father, mother, house, car, all kinds of things. Sata eva advitiyam sarva prapancho mithya eva ninyam ninyah susiddha. So finally, what we have, that Brahman is only one, and this duality that we are talking about is only a phenomenal thing that we are referring to for the benefit our understanding in our everyday lives. Now we are graduating to our next question, and it's a very profound philosophical issue. Now you see, there is a rope and there is a snake. Now tell me, the snake is all over the rope, isn't it? The rope is 5 feet. The snake will be 5 feet. You cannot say the rope is 6 feet. The snake is 3 feet. Does it happen like that? So in that example, the superimposed object is spread across as much as the real object. If you see a person who is actually a man, these days they have long hair. So this guy is a rock star, and therefore he has long hair. And you're looking at that guy who is a little short from behind, is wearing jacket and stuff like that. These days now we are talking about what they're saying, he, she, and they in America. This gender correctness, very confusing. So he, she, and they. Some people are also refusing. Let's imagine that it's a they. He's actually not a man, or it's actually a man, but he's wearing a very colorful shirt or jacket, and from behind you see that he has very curly, beautiful, bob hair, and it's shoulder long bob hair. And you think it's a beautiful girl because she has lovely bob hair, she has a colorful jacket, and maybe she's only 165 centimeters. So fits into the image of a tall, beautiful lady, which a man. Now, if the length of the man is 165 centimeters, the length of this presumed, blonde girl will also be 165 centimeters. What about the Drashtantika Brahman and Maya? Because Maya is Brahmashrita. So it's spread all over Brahman, or it's spread in certain parts of the Brahman. This is a philosophical question. Nanu Maya Sakti Sad Vastu Adhishtina Syad Yadi. If we say that Maya Sakti is Sad Vastu Adhisthana, the foundation of these Maya Sakti is Sadvastu. What is the Sadvastu? Is Brahman. Okay. Now the question, Tari Tasyaha. Tasyaha means Mayayaha, of Maya. Krishna Brahma Vrittitvam Ahasvid Ekadesha Bhaktvam. What is Ahasvid means either. Krishna Brahma Vrittitvam. That what is Vritti? Vritti is Vikara. So you have there is this pen. Okay. So in Sanskrit they will say this is on my palm. Okay. So this they would say Kalamasya Hasta Vrittitvam. It is staying in the Hasta. Now they're saying Maya Yaha Brahma Vrittitvam. Okay. So Maya is superimposed on Brahman. Is it in one corner? All over Brahman. And I'll tell you what are the difficult questions there. Adye Mukta Prapyam Brahmana Syad. If we say actually that is Krishna Brahma Vrittitvam, you attribute it to Maya. Maya is all over the Brahman, right? This is a very philosophical question. You might find a little stupid. I mean, I don't rule that out. You might find it's too imaginative a problem. It's not real, but it is actually a real problem. What is the problem? Problem is that we have in our philosophical understanding, there is a word called Jivana Mukta, living liberated person. And who is this guy? He's a Brahmavid, Brahmaiva Bhavati. He has realized Brahman. Who else can explain what is Brahman? In Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says he should be Shrotriya Brahmanishta. He's a guy who knows how to realize Brahman, but he has also realized Brahman. And therefore, when you listen to what Brahman is from him or her, you actually graduate very fast towards that through your sadhana. Because he's a Anubhavi, he has explained it, he had understood it, he has experienced it. Not as a different object, but as pure consciousness. But he has someone who has got aporoksha anubhuti. Now, if this Maya, I tell you what is the philosophical problem. If this Maya has the ability to surround Brahman comprehensively, will there be any availability of the Brahman without this Maya Upadhi? Because Shastra says that you will have Brahmakara Vritti, you will meditate on Omkara, Swaguna Brahma, then Nirguna Brahma. And finally, you are no different from that Brahman. You will have that Ekakara Vritti when the Vritti also drops and there is only pure consciousness. So that is what is Suddha Brahma Aporoksha Sakyatkara. Direct experience of the ultimate truth. That is what Shruti says. Now you are saying that Maya is fully spread over Brahman. So wherever you go, wherever you try to catch Brahman, it will be there with Maya. It's never alone. During your college days, you must have seen that sometimes there would be a very mutually loyal and respectful couple. So boys, one boy, one girl. So wherever you go, they are playing, the girl will be sitting, the boy is playing. And if there's a cricket match, the girl is sitting, the boy is playing, or the girl is playing, boy is sitting. The cafe, they're together. Library, they're together. Only in the exam hall, they're separated by a few meters. They're all the time together. Right? So you have Niyata Sahajarya. What happens when Brahman and Maya have that sort of a relationship? And if that is real, you can never get hold of the Suddha Brahman. He's saying, therefore, Mukti, and that particular thing, Mukta Prapya means the one which is accessible to the Jivana Muktas, that Brahma will not be possible. Ditya, in case you say that Maya covers only one section, one part of the Brahman, if that is your argument, then what is the problem? Ditya, Sangsatpapattihi Ansena Saha Sangshaha Tasyavava Sangsvam Apattihi. So if you say that it is there in certain parts of the Brahman, it is there, so I have a piece of land. Let's imagine it's 10 hectares. Over 1 acre of that large patch of land, I have established a meditation center or a garden in which there is a temple or a meditation center over 1 acre of land. You have a large part of land, large patch of land, out of which over 1 acre you have a temple. Right? How can you say it's on one part of the land or one patch of the land? Because that land is savayava. It has a physical existence, it has a physical strength, physical spread, and therefore it's possible for us to say that the temple is occupying 1/10 of the whole patch of land. The Maya covers only one section of the Brahman. The moment you say this, there would be several questions, and that is what we are going to discuss. Ityakarikam mandadhiyam sankam nirakartum tad buddhi anurupam eva. First, he is saying this kind of question can be asked only by stupid people because they do not understand what is this Maya and what is their Brahman. But they may have some apprehension, is Brahma having any physical form? Oh, no, no, it doesn't have Desakala Vastu Paricheda Sunyam. Shastra says there is a clarity. But some Mandabuddhi person, somebody who's a dull minded guy, may have this question, and that is being explained here. So, Anurupam eva bhasam ashritya. So, what that dull guy will understand, accordingly, this is being explained. This is not real. As again and again has been said, that the mother is teaching the son 1 to 10. The child is little, it's about 2.5, and therefore, for explaining to the boy 1, the mother shows 1 finger. To explain 2, the mother shows 2 fingers. But the 2 fingers is not 2, but at that level, this is 2. Otherwise, the boy will not graduate to the next level. Similarly, for the guys who are little dull minded among the aspirants of Vedanta, the teacher is trying to explain it in the language of the dim-witted students who are backbenchers. Bhasam asritya ekadesya bhaktvam angikaroti. That if you divide Brahman into four parts, Maya occupies 1/4 of Brahman. He clarifies that for the time being, like the mother shows 1 finger is 1, 3 fingers is 3. Similarly, I am saying that Maya has ekadesa bhaktvam, but that's not real. Okay, that we have to we must realize this. Okay, so where is that page? Yeah, so न कृष्ण ब्रह्मा वृत्ति सा शक्ति किंत्वेति देश भाग घट शक्तिर्यथा भूमौ स्निग्ध मृद्येव वर्तते. Now he's giving an example, but first you have to understand that this sloka is not giving a real explanation or description of what is Brahman and what is Maya. This is a disclaimer. So please don't quote this sloka now to say that no, no, how do you say this? Because one sloka in Vedanta says, in even the next sloka will deal with it. You also look at the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan also says this, that 3/4 of it is Swayam Prabha, 1/4 of it is the physical universe, 1/4 of Brahman is this physical universe. So there is a Desa Kalpana. They are physical spheres. One sphere is the physical reality. Other 3 spheres of reality is what is invisible, what is subtle. All this is already there. Why didn't you agree? No. Let's clarify. In Advaita Vedanta, we have Adhyaropa Apavada. There would be a hypothetical presupposition in order to drive home a point, in order for that hypothesis to be abandoned at the next higher level of realization. We will accept that hypothesis in order to reject it at the level. Like, for example, you look at the particle theory of light. How do they explain it? They will say that, yeah, if you have a candle, then you keep a compact opaque bottle and the light hits the walls of the bottle, which is cylindrical, and then travels forth. It, encircles and move forward. So particle nature of light is correct. Some people believed it. And then you studied the wave nature of light. Then you have quantum mechanics, the big and the new understanding of everything, isn't it? So, at one level, Vedanta accepts and gives a lot of descriptions in the Upanishads, you find, which are loved by the Dvaitavadis. They latch on to those explanations. They say it's written in Veda and the Upanishads, you have to accept. Brahman exists, Sansara is real. Advaita Vedanta says, don't get overexcited. Neti neti. It's adhyaropa apavada. Sometimes it will be written for the comfort of our understanding at that level that we need to graduate to the next level. So you look at the foundational conclusions and then look at other insights for an intermediate understanding, and then you graduate to the highest level where even these Upanishads become superfluous. You go to the highest level of self-understanding in the form of that luminosity where the knower, the known, and the process of knowing, they are not 2 different or 3 different realities. Na Krishna Brahma Vritti sa Sakti na Krishna Brahma Vritti. That Maya doesn't covered the Brahman comprehensively all over. But Brahman is not a physical reality. And Maya is not like a carpet with which you can cover this Brahman. This is a manner of speaking. Kintu eka desa bhag, it only covers only 1/4 of it, one certain section of it. How? Explain to me. Yatha ghata sakti bhumo snigdha mridi eva vartate. He's saying, you look at it. You have clay or earth materials all over the world. Now, ghata sakti, the ability, that ghata, that pot is being created. Where does that power belong? In wet clay. Wet clay can be reshaped into a jar or a pot, a certain container. The clay is all around. Silicon oxide is all around. There is a particular state, there's a particular location, a particular aspect of it where you can actually see a pot materializing out of clay. Clay is all over, but there is a certain part, certain instance, certain, or you can say in philosophy, they say there is a certain moment of this reality which manifests as the pot, not all over. Look at the commentary. Samaya Sakti Krishna Brahma Vritti na Krishne Asese Brahmani na Vartate. What do you mean by Krishna Brahma Vritti? Krishna Brahma Vritti means no, it's not all over the Brahman. Na Krishne. Krishne means here all over. Whole of Brahman. Why? What do you mean by whole? Asesha. It doesn't have an end. There is no Sesha Seshi Bhava. There is no part and whole thing in the Brahman. So it's asesha. Brahmani na vartate. It cannot exist. Kintu ekadesa bhak. But it actually covers one part of the Brahman, not the whole of it. Kinchi desa eva varsate. So it exists in a certain particular kinchi desa eva, in certain parts of the Brahman. It covers only certain parts of it. Tatra drishtanta maha. So give me an example. I would give you an example. Ghata iti. The example is the pot. How? Yatha ghata sakti ghata utpadana saktir bhumo sarvatra na vidyate. That you can create a ghata or a pot. That power or potential is not spread across the reality of clay, but only when it is wet. Kintu ekadeshe snigdha mriddhi eva vartate. Whenever you have wet clay, then that can be, if it's hard, dry clay, you cannot have a gut out of it. It has to be wet. Then you have that viscosity, and then you can modulate it, you can give it a shape, and then you can call it that this is this. Okay? If you look at the elaborate, there are two words that we keep using. Is it niravachirna and avachinna? Niravachinna means free from all limitations and restrictions. That is Brahman. So by saying ekadesa bhak, they are in a way, Maya is anadi, Brahman is also anadi. But Maya is parichinna, it's not aparichinna, it's parichinna. Why? Because of ekadesa bhak. It is established in one tiny section, 1/4 of the Brahman. By saying this, they are making it parichinna. Okay, it's not free from, it's not unlimited power, it's limited power. So kasyachid avachinna dese vyavahata swarupa sthitihi tasya eva. We are just trying to explain why. Because the jagat is a tiny part of the whole universe, which is the luminous creative energy whole. If we imagine the material reality, so if you ask a plasma physicist, you will say, yeah, this solid, liquid, and gas, that's what we studied. And then a friend of mine was working on plasma physics. He laughed. He says, no, no, no. You know, these are three states of the matter we study in school. But if you study higher, what do you know? Yeah, majority of it, 80% and above, it's all plasma. It's neither solid nor liquid nor gas. Similarly, whatever we study at a particular level is refuted at another level. We study about 3 dimensions, then we add a 4th dimension, and then they talk about 10 dimensions. They talk about we talk about linear space. They talk about curvy linear space. There are different kind of ways in which we are trying to make sense of reality. one description, one hypothesis is done away with it for a higher, more integrated understanding of the reality, right? And therefore, he's saying, Vyavahita Swarupa Stitihi Tasya Eva Yatha Ghadotpana Sakti Bhumau Sarvatra na Vidyate Kintu Snigdha Mridadi Desa Eva Vishishta Vrittihi. This modification, the potentiality of being created as a pot, that is not available everywhere, but only where the clay is wet in a particular proportion. Tatha eva maya sakti brahmanina sarvatha. Similarly, this maya sakti is not all over the Brahman, not at all time, but kintu ekadesha nirdishtataya vartate. First thing, there is a delimitation. Imagine here. You see, what is the risk? If we accept that Maya Sakti fully covers Brahman, you have an imagination of Ishvara, isn't it? Brahman is Nirvikara, Nishkala, Suddha Brahman. Ishvara is Maya Upahita Chaitanya. Now, this particular argument of the Advaita Vedanta is also a pointer to those who believe that, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, Shastra says this, and he is Param Brahma. He is not avatar, he is avatari. And Krishna is the whole Brahman, Saguna Brahman. Ramanuja argues in a beautiful way how Narayana is the Saguna Brahman. And if you look at Devi Bhagavat, the Divine Mother says, Sarvam khalvidam, sarvam khalu evaham, nanya dasti sanatana, to Lord Vishnu. He says, Beta, bhul mat jana. Sarvam khalu eva aham. Everything you see, everything that exists, including you, me, everything is only me. Na anyad asti sanatana. There is nothing else which is eternal, but is real. That means I alone, I am alone is real, eternal, unlimited. Anything that you see manifesting and perishing, which has Srishti, Sthiti, Laya, these three states, these are Anitya Rupas. They come and go. Okay, so it doesn't have it in the beginning, doesn't exist in the end. How does it exist in the middle is the question. So, Adavante yen nasti vartamani pitattatha Manduka Karika, it says, which didn't exist in the beginning, didn't exist in the end. Where does it exist in the middle? Where do you imagine it? It's just a thought. It doesn't have a reality. Therefore, he's saying what? That ekadesha vrittitvam is imagined. That means avidya upahita. When it is avidya upahita, jiva. Maya upahita is Ishvara. These are all tiny sections of the whole Brahman, these upadhis, and then create little domains of identities. And then we refer to them as real. And we make analytical distinctions between Ishvara and Jiva. But everything is Suddha Brahma. Take away the upadhi, they become all Brahman. Okay? So he's saying, Brahmabdi abidya ubhita syat mukta swabhavo na bhaved. Then if you say that it covers it comprehensively, then this Maya Sakti covers it. Then, because Maya Sakti will cover the Brahman everywhere, then avidya upahita syat mukta swabhavo na bhaved ajnana rupa upadhi parigrahasya dosha syat. Then Suddha Brahma as a concept will become difficult to deliver through logical argumentation. What to look for it? Suddha Brahma will not exist, then how can you have Suddha Brahma Sakshatkar? It will only be available packaged with some adulteration, which is the Maya Sakti. That's why it's being refuted. And the second possibility, yaditu jatra kutrachit vyapyate tadha kinchid brahmangsha eva sansarina gocharaha. If you say that no, it covers only one part of the Brahman, then you say, oh, really? So it has different parts. There is a part and whole theory. Okay? So, not to nityam suddham brahma sarvatra maya upahitam bhavet. So, you'll have only part. So, there is a theoretical explanation. It's an apology. It's a particular explanation where they are trying to combine our human intellectual anxieties and the Upanishadic insights in order to balance them. They are giving this kind of an explanation. Ekadesvak iti nirdishyate. Ekadesha sabdena desha parichedo na abhipretaha. It doesn't mean physicality doesn't exist. So there is no desha paricheda. That means it's only so many square kilometers you have Maya. No, that's not what is intended. Kintu avichinna ज्ञान गोचरस्य विवक्षितत्वं यथा घट उत्पादन शक्ति भूमनि सर्वत्र नास्ति किंतु स्निग्धम दादि. So you have the way the potentiality to create a pot exists only in wet clay. So similarly, he's saying avachinna jnana gocarasya vivakhitatvam. That when you think about Brahman, when you imagine Brahman is something about Ishwar and all that, so you with your own consciousness you are trying to construct it. And that is not covering whole of Brahman. That is what he's trying to say. Okay. Now we will graduate to the next level. And finally, in this sloka, Brahman is Nitya. And therefore, when it is Sachidananda Swarupa, abandoning is Sachidananda Swarupa,